Wild Monkeys. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. So you thought about starting your own low voltage business. This is the show for you.
Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you plugged into success. So grab your tools, turn up the volume, and let's talk cabling. Let's Talk Cabling, your source for low voltage expertise and connection.
Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, project managers, estimators, IT personnel, even customers. We're connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those simple little steps helps us take on the algorithm so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? You know you get to ask your favorite RCDD questions on installation, certification, design, estimation, project management, even career path questions. But I can hear you now. Chuck, I'm driving my truck on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. I don't want to get into a direction. I record them, and they're available afterwards without you having to get into an accent. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, would you click on that QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can schedule a 15-minute one-on-one call with me, after hours, of course. You can even buy Let's Talk Cabling t-shirts. So as I mentioned, starting a low voltage business. Who in this industry hasn't thought about doing that? You know, here's a story I don't think I've ever told. I was sitting one day outside the office of the Navy Annex with 3 of my buddies, only about a year or two in the industry. And we had to wait because our truck was blocked in. So we're waiting for the parking lot guys to move our things. And we're just talking, oh yeah, we can do this. This is so easy. Well, actually 2 of us actually did. I never did. I never started my own business, but we've all thought about it all the time. But what do you have to do to actually take that leap to go from an installer to an owner? Because, well, a lot of the skill sets are going to cross transfer. There's a lot of new skill sets that you better be good at. And this show is actually coming on the tail end of another show on how to sell your low voltage company, how to sell the service and stuff. So this is going to be a good part of that series continuing on. So we're going to break the show up into 3 segments, or 3 acts, as they like to say. The first one is going to be planning your launch. The second one is going to be executing your first projects and hard-earned lessons that you won't find in any textbooks. And then we're also going to cover, what to do afterwards. So let's go ahead and jump in the first one. Funny thing is, this show has been in the planning efforts for over a year. Over a year. I first approached these guys to do this show, probably think about a year and a half ago. But because they're busy schedules, because of my busy schedules, we just never crossed paths, couldn't do it. But I finally got it nailed down, and I got 3 of the best on tonight's show for you. I've got All Green Lights, R&R Connectivity, and Better Days Technology. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Good. Thank you, Chuck.
Great. Thank you for having us. Doing well. Thank you.
Not a problem. So let's start off with you, Pierce. You're a repeat interviewee on the show.
Yep.
Let's start with the origin. What made you decide to start your own low voltage company?
So I had, back in 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, I had started doing small MSP kind of work, break fix kind of work, if you would, locally around town. And I got hooked into doing some small cabling projects for a couple clients. Didn't know the first thing about it, but figured it out enough to sort of stumble through it and pull it off somewhat successfully. Shortly after I did the first couple of those, I got into 1 or 2 bigger ones. They quickly sort of escalated, and I realized the margins, at least for me versus doing MSP work, were a hell of a lot better. That incentive for the money right out of the gate made me want to become a better installer, a better technician, and improve my skills even more. So ever since then, I've just been on that path and trying to become better every day.
Very cool. Ron, what about you? What was your story? How did you get into doing your own low voltage business?
Roughly about the same thing. I started in cell phone repair and MSP, and that was back in 2013. I started with that, and we had customers reach out to us wanting cabling jobs, small ones, and just continue growing from there. A lot like Pierce, we see the money value more so in the cabling jobs than some of our MSP work, but we still do a lot of MSP work as well.
Very good. And Jeff, what's your story?
I was IT director for a private school for 20 years, and I was doing this nights and weekends. I had a pretty good client base and decided one day I was, when you're working in a private school, you get a lot of weeks off, 2 weeks here, 3, it was crazy. So I had 2 weeks off for spring break, and I was wiring a house, and there were a bunch of other trades there. Jamaican music was playing, and I was like, you know what, this is where I want to begin. So I went to my boss that when we came back from break, and I said, look, this is going to be my last year, and I went for it. And my only regret is not doing it sooner.
There you go. So I'm pretty sure that the process of when the thought first came across your mind that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and start doing this extra service or do this business. I'm sure you didn't just jump right to it. I'm sure you guys probably, knowing you three the way I know you guys, I'm pretty sure you thought about it, researched it, and maybe even done some planning on it, right? So going around the room, getting started with you first, Pierre, what was something that you did during the planning phase that helped you hit the ground running?
I'm the last person you should ask that question because I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. The good thing for me was I wasn't afraid to take the risk if you were to take the leap. I had somewhat of a backstop and safety net with my wife working, so I was, if I had failed, I wouldn't have been dead in the water. But being somewhat fearless and not knowing what I didn't know let me sort of really go after it in a way that I probably couldn't have if I'd really calculated what I was doing.
It's nice having a sugar mama, isn't it? Ryan, what about you? What during the planning stage helped you be successful when you finally started doing this low voltage stuff?
So mine's pretty straightforward. I was still in high school when I started it, so I really could go any which way I wanted to. So if it failed, I could go flip burgers if I really wanted to. I mean, there's could have been a couple different scenarios that happened, but still being in high school was a great benefit for me. Was it easy with the hours? But we worked through the weekends, whatnot, late nights to get the jobs done. And went through, went ground running after that, after high school, and I went through a little bit of college, but not much, and just let the business continue growing from there.
See, one of these days, Ryan, you're going to be sitting back, looking in the mirror. You can be staring at that man in the mirror with a whole bunch of gray hair. And you'll be like, man, I've been doing this for 45 years. I've been doing this since I was out of high school. Ask me how I know that.
I have the gray hair already.
I think that comes from having a business.
Yeah.
Right? Jeff, what during the planning stage helped you hit the ground running?
I can echo Pierce's story almost to the letter. I have a sugar mama at home too, so my wife is a full-time nurse, and it really kind of gave me the springboard I needed. I didn't have to worry about things like medical insurance and pensions and all those things that a lot of people unfortunately have to think about when they're thinking about their career. So I really had a strong support system at home, and when it was time to go off, like Ryan, I did have a strong client base that I felt I could confidently make the leap and keep me busy while I continued to grow and find new clients.
Starting your own business, right? And I didn't realize this until I started my podcast, right? You got to think about what's going to be the company name, what's going to be the brand, what's going to be the positioning. What's going to make it feel right? How did you come up with All Green Lights, Pierce? How did you come up with that brand?
So it's actually the second iteration of my company, if you would. When I first started and I was doing the MSP work, or MSP-like work, I went by Tech Caddy. The idea being that, I would help carry you through your technology problems or some silliness like that. In 2016, we were on sabbatical overseas, and I had sort of shut down Tech Caddy. I was planning to come back and launch something new. And in a moment of just like a aha moment, I was sitting in the little house we were renting, and I looked over at the modem and noticed all the green lights blinking. I was like, oh, things are working the way they should. And that literally was kind of what inspired me to say all green lights would be symbolic of keeping the network up and keeping things running smoothly.
Yeah, one of your brands too, and one of your marketing things are the little people, little Lego men, that you leave on top of your racks. How did that come about?
That was a thing with my son. So Jasper, who's now 12, when I was started, he was probably 6 or so. Hated to see me go out and go to work sometimes. So we made a deal. I was like, I'll tell you what, when I finish a rack and I'm getting ready to come home, I'll put the guys up on top to keep it all clean, and I'll send you a photo so you know I'm done, and I'll be on the next flight home the next day. And it started from there. And so he's always made them for me and given me like his little custom Lego man to go put on the different racks that we build out.
Nice. Ryan, what about R&R connectivity? You guys have a really unique brand with the R&R logo and stuff like that. How did you come up with that?
So R&R comes from Rick and Ryan. So Rick is my business partner, so we took the 2 R's there. It's funny, one of the people that we actually were talking to when we were starting the business said, oh, that's a stupid name. You shouldn't go that way. And we looked up to that person, but we kind of looked to our first customer, and they said, we love it. And I was like, oh, we're going with it. I said, we valued our customers' brand or their opinion more than someone that has a successful business themselves. We wanted to go with what a customer thought was good.
Right. Jeff, Better Days Technology, the sunrise. Actually, I think I got one of them stickers. Yeah, I do. I got one of them stickers back there in the back of my thing. How did you come up with your logo?
So my logo, I actually, I was struggling for that artistic, development there. Obviously, the name comes from my last name, Day, Better Days. But the logo, I really loved the process. I put it out to one of these online-based, computer graphic design places.
Like
where they
Elver or something like that?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember the name of it, but I had to put up a cash prize for the one that I selected, and I had, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of entries that I got to really comb through, and it was such a really fun process that I've tried to find other ways to go back to it with little side things that I had going on, because it was just so cool to see people dreaming for you. And I would, if anyone's got, that hurdle that they're trying to get over on, how do I get this logo? It was such a fun experience for me. You get a lot, like I said, I don't want any play on the initials. That was just a thing that I didn't want, and you got a lot of those. But for the most part, it was when you saw it, you're like, that's the one. And then you got to go back and forth with them to make little iterations. It's like the grays are like a solder board. If you've ever really looked at it closely, so it was fun. It was so cool to see some people who had no idea who you were bring your dream to reality.
Right. And the thing about branding that a lot of people don't realize is, coming up with the brand is only 40% of the battle. Right. The other is being consistent across all of your stuff, across your social media platforms, across business literature, lettering head, all to be consistent. That way, if someone sees, like right now, if someone was to, flip across the webpage and they'd see, the Let's Talk Cabling logo, they'd automatically know, oh, that's Chuck. Right. So the key is being consistent with that. And that's where I think a lot of people fall down.
A quick word from the folks who help make this show possible. Are you ready to boost your fiber game? Then check out Go Far Fiber Training School, where you'll learn from the best. Lee Renfro, RCDD, Big C Tech, and 3-time winner of the Big C Cable Skills Challenge himself. Whether you're pulling your first strand or prepping for certification, Go Far delivers hands-on, real-world training that gets you job site ready. Don't just go far. Lee will take you all the way. Sign up today and start leveling up your career. Visit GoFar on LinkedIn or click on the link in the description below.
Now, one of the things I want to touch base as well is getting your own business license. You got to get your own business license, your own insurance, and your legal structure. Any advice for a new starter? Starting with you, Pierce.
talk to people who know more than you, listen to what they tell you. I kind of winged it out of the gate, and that's my one regret on starting is I was like, oh, I can do everything. You can't, and you shouldn't try to do everything. Do the right thing, set up the right legal structure, get it set up as an LLC at a minimum to protect yourself and separate the company and everything else. Past that, if you've got mentors, they don't even have to be in the same field, but just mentors who can help you on structuring business and running a business, and the things you need to think about, like how do you set up your accounting and your billing and all that kind of just basic stuff that we all need to do to run the business. Definitely leverage those people and use them as best you can.
What about you, Ryan? Who helped you?
So it was a business mentor that kind of helped us, and accounting person that we knew from a previous company, because Rick and I worked together for a previous company before we joined and did this venture. So they helped us. One thing I would say is definitely reach out to people that have their own businesses for the help, especially if you're in the low voltage community and want to start your own business. Look up Technology Worldwide, TKW. There's a couple of channels on our Slack that are made for that, and all of us would be happy to help mentor anybody looking to start their own company. I know one of the guys recently, Sean Wilson, out of Philadelphia area or New Jersey, PA. He started his own business, and I kind of helped him along the way with that.
Was that the same guy who helped you with all your legal advice and all that? Was he the same guy who said your R&R was a stupid?
No. Thank you. No, thankfully not. So we had my wife was a paralegal, so we looked to her boss who did white collar federal law for a lot of the stuff, and then we had a couple other accounting people that we leaned on.
Well, we have a lot more in common than I realized. My wife was a paralegal for 30 plus years, and she cool. Sometimes little things. Sometimes she'll say, "No, wait a minute, let me read through them." I'm like, okay.
Yep, I'll let mine read through everything at this point. Yeah. Even if we put it through our lawyer, like we have 2 or 3 lawyers that are on our team that we deal with constantly. I still let her read it because I'm like, nope, I want another person, and she's gonna look out for the best for R&R no matter what. So.
I think it's the paralegal in them, right? Because we were at T-Mobile over the weekend, and we were looking to maybe get a backup internet service for the house here. 2 is 1, 1 is none kind of thing, and to use when we're traveling with the RV and stuff. And when you start looking, they start hitting you all these little these page that you got to sign. She's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna read this," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, yeah, okay." Jeff, licensing, insurance, setting up a legal structure. Any advice for me?
I can't add much to what Pierce and Ryan have said. Definitely find mentors, people you look up to. They certainly don't have to be in the industry. One of my best friends in the world kind of I followed his track. We're the same age, but he was able to get a good 10-year head start on me. He's an engineer, but I was able to kind of like watch him and how that worked. The only thing, as I was listening to the other 2 guys talk, that I would add to that is get yourself obviously a great lawyer, a great accountant, but don't stay with them if you don't feel like they're the right one, and don't feel like you're trapped with that professional offering. That's something that happened to me, and you kind of feel like, oh man, like at this point they're so entrenched in what I do, but if you don't feel right about them, you got to remember you're not working for someone anymore. People are working for you, and you got to feel really good about the people that are on your team, and you can't be afraid to cut bait if you need to. And that's something that happened to me, and I try to tell anybody who will listen is don't feel like the decisions you made from day one are the ones you have to live with for the rest of your career.
True, and I don't think this is in the questions that I sent to you guys in advance, but I love consuming anything business related, and I don't remember who the guy was. He's one of the professional business people, and he said one of the worst things that entrepreneurs do is they don't fire people fast enough. They will try to put up with them and then try to make them work and all stuff, and then there's a lot of damage you can have. This show's not about that, but don't be afraid to cut bait. I like that. So let's talk about, okay, so now you've got your business, and I think one of the biggest questions I get asked quite often is, Chuck, how do I get my low voltage license for XYZ state? I don't know. I don't live in Wyoming. I don't live in New Jersey. I don't live in. But I think as Ryan pointed out, I think that's where the advantage of being in a community like TKW or Technology Worldwide will help, because even though somebody may not have gone through that process, they probably know somebody's gone through that process.
Right.
And certainly can help you with that. So let's shift from kicking off and all the legal stuff to your first job, right? Your first job under your company name, the first paid gig under your company name. Pierce, how was it? How did it go? Did it go as expected?
Mostly. So I had just gotten back from being overseas, and I kind of literally hit like 2 days after we landed. We always get out of the field and start working, and I was a little rusty, if you would, having not worked for 7 or 8 months at that point. So we did it and got through it, but I definitely forgot some little things, like just some materials and some planning and some key logistic stuff. But you learned, and the next one went perfectly fine. It was just that first one.
Yeah, well, I remember being an estimator, but whenever I got the phone call that, hey, you won the job, the first thing would always go through my mind is, what'd I forget?
Yep.
Ryan, what about your first job? How did it go compared to how you planned it?
It went pretty well, actually. It was for a food chain restaurant. We did 2 months up in Michigan. Rick and I did. We did, I think it was 16 or 17 stores in that 2 month period.
Oh, wow.
And it was our first solo gig, and we did it together. I will say he lost some hair, I lost some hair. We wanted to punch each other a couple times, but we made the best of it, and it was a nice paycheck at the end of the day.
Right. And you guys came by with probably a little more healthier respect for each other as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Jeff, what about your first job? How did it go compared to?
Not well at all. I had I was working at a school. I had like 5 classes left to get a second major. So I asked the job if I could finish my 5th year of college while I took this IT director job. So from the first semester of the year, I was part-time, and then I was just part-time for the remainder of the year. So one of the board of trustees, one of the members of the board of trustees, he reached out and he said, hey, I know you have this spare time now that you finished school and everything. You want to jump in and do some IT stuff at my place of business? And I said, yeah, this sounds great. Looks like I'm going to be doing some freelance stuff. And the mistakes one mistake that just kind of like resonates with me every day is I was responsible for ordering new computers, and I had to order. So we were ordering Windows XP had just come out, and I was like, yeah, let's save you some money. I'm ordering all these XP home computers, not realizing that those couldn't join a domain. You needed the XP Pro license. So that was egg on my face first time, but I think about it every day. XP is long gone. It's not part of our world anymore, but it reminded me to, cross every T and dot every I, make sure that and like you said, oh man, I won the bid. What did I do wrong? This is that kind of reminder for me. Like, something as simple as ordering the wrong operating system on a device could really, submarine a project fast. So, simple reminder to look out for things.
Let's take a short break. Are you trying to reach the technicians, project managers, and decision makers of the ICT industry? Then why aren't you advertising on Let's Talk Cabling? With over 150,000 impressions a month across podcasts, YouTube, and social media, this isn't just a show, it's the go-to resource for the low-voltage industry. We spotlight the tools, training, and technology shaping the future of structured cabling, and your brand could be front and center. Don't just get noticed, get trusted. Email Chuck at advertising@letstalkcabling.com, and let's connect your brand to the right audience today.
Good news is anybody who's been in the business long enough, we all got horror stories.
Yeah.
We all have horror stories. No project goes right every single time, And I've even mentioned on the podcast before that I wired up a call center in Memphis, Tennessee. A couple thousand seats, wired them up T568A, and guess what the contract wanted?
B.
Exactly. Yes, and luckily, the customer and I were good friends, and He's like, you know what? I'm not going to make you go back and redo all these and retest everything. We'll just make these A. Just next time, pay a little more attention. I was like, whoo, because you know how much money that would have cost? Because the modular furniture was already set up. They were moving stuff in. That would have been a huge hit to the project. And I hate to admit this, but I had 15, 20 years experience at that point. That shouldn't have happened, but it does. It just does, right? So one of the biggest shifts that I think for a lot of people coming from the tech field, want to start their own business, is how do you find customers? How do you land contracts? And I actually talked about this a little bit in last week's show, where I mentioned one of the ways you absolutely should not be doing it is there's a book that gives you all the local construction projects for your area, and the problem with those, they're very low margin and you're too late. You know, the low voltage contract has already been selected by the time it hits that book. So let's start with you, Pierre. Listen, how did you land those first couple clients?
So let me step back to when it was Tech Cat. Do this with the MSP stuff, because that's probably a better answer for this. I literally went door to door. So when I decided to start doing that, I went downtown, the little college town we're in, and the first day I had picked up 3 clients.
Oh, wow.
Literally knocked on the door saying, hey, this is what I could do for you guys. Do you need any services? When it got into the cabling, I got very, very lucky, and I'll admit that out of the gate, that I picked up a very good client from the outset, and I've been with them ever since. So I haven't had to do a whole lot of looking for new clients, if you would, because
Gotcha.
there's been a lot of work over the last decade with them.
Right. Ryan, how about you? Because I know when I go to the TKW events, and I do lurk in the TKW Slack channel. I don't answer a lot of stuff because I'm usually way too busy. But I do, man. I hear all the time, Ryan's got all kinds of work. He's looking for people everywhere. How do you find your clients?
So it started with the MSP side, and we got clients that were starting open nationwide branches or locations, whatever. But one of our most famous clients, I'm not allowed to speak about them because NDA, but I answered the phone at like 2:00 in the morning, and their headquarters is in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm based, and my phone's ringing at 2:00 in the morning. My wife's like, who the hell's calling you? Like, I'm like, I don't know. So I answered it. It was this client, and their headquarters were in Charlotte, and they were screaming, yelling that they hired someone that started doing the job, then just walked off the job, and their entire network's down. And it was the entire campus for this large company in Charlotte, and they didn't care what it took, but they needed to get someone there. So my happy butt got out of bed at 2:00 in the morning, went over there, took about 2.5 hours, got it done, all working. I stayed until about 7:30, 8:00 in the morning just to make sure, as their employees were showing up for the day, everything was working.
Right.
As soon as I got the check off that everything was good, one of the people come in and they handed me a blank check. They said, "You fill it out."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I have no idea. Like, just 2:00 in the morning, like, I wasn't thinking about money at that point. Right. I was thinking, okay, here's a good, solid client. Nationwide client, over 5,000 locations. Like, it'd be a good hit. Didn't think anything about it. We talked about it for a couple days, and I was like, I'm not looking to knock your head off, but how do we get in to do all your nationwide work?
Right.
That's where it took off with them. But it's been mainly word of mouth, and I'm thankful for a couple of the Facebook groups and for TKW for that as well. Right. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn or toot any of our horns at R&R, but as you continue to do quality work, your name get recognized and your name is put out there.
Yes, it does. And I totally forgot that you were in Charlotte. I literally taught in the Charlotte Gray Bar last week.
Oh,
I totally forgot. I totally forgot that you were in Charlotte. I should have called you and said, hey, let's meet up for dinner or something.
Yeah.
Dang it, man. I'm sure I'll be back. Mr. Jeff, how did you do yours?
I think for me, it's I grew up in a small town. Only left to go to college, and even that was only 15 minutes up the road. So, I'm kind of born, raised, never left, and I have a lot of connections. I feel like a lot of the people that are my age, are now starting to move into decision-making roles in the companies that they've been with. So we work for a lot of electrical contractors, And a lot of the people who started off just being journeyman electrician are now project managers for their company. And they're realizing, like, yeah, we don't know anything about low voltage stuff. We're losing jobs because we don't have a low voltage person on staff. It really doesn't make sense for us to hire a low voltage person on staff, so we need a reliable subcontractor that can do that type of stuff. So I feel like, for me, it's definitely word of mouth. Really big into like local sports. So I have a lot of connections there as well. And for me, that's really the phone never stops ringing. I've said before, very rarely is there not 1 degree of separation between me and the client that I'm working for. There's always, like, it's very rarely do I just get a cold call like, hey, saw your van, took your phone number down. It's always like, hey, I got your number from so and so. Right. So that's very meaningful to me, and I don't feel like I'd be where I am today without having a solid connection.
And word of mouth advertising is the absolute best, because you already go in there with somewhat. You don't have the biggest wall to clear, because they already kind of know about you a little bit, or somebody's recommended to you.
Yeah.
So you still got to kind of prove yourself. You still got to kind of break down the wall a little bit, but it's not it's not like cold calling.
No, 100%. I always say that introduction just gets you in the door. It's your quality of work that keeps you there.
Very good, very good.
Yes. Sage advice.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a lot of the questions I hear asked quite often on social media about people just starting their own low voltage business, thinking about starting their own low voltage business, is how to price. How do I price a 100 camber install? How do I price 75 drops? I'm not going to ask you guys how you estimate, because there are a dozen different ways you can estimate, and each one of them is valid in their own ways. But what I will ask you is, did you make any early mistakes during the bidding and estimating? And if you did, how did you recover from that? Starting with you, Mr. Pierce.
I didn't charge enough because I didn't know any better. I charged what I thought was enough for me to get by on and make a little bit of profit for me without factoring in any of the stuff that you should have, like tools, licensing, or all the overhead stuff. So over the years, we've increased prices a little bit as we go. But once I realized where I should be charging out of the gate, it became it was better for us financially, because we were getting paid what we were worth. But two, it's been operating that much easier. You're always worried about always worried about cash flow when you're not making enough, quote unquote. Right. And so guys ask me the same question all the time: what should I charge? And I'm like, always charge more than you think, because guys are like, oh, it just cost me $200 for a box of cable and $50 for a bag of jacks. That's all I got to charge. No.
There's a lot more. There's a lot more to than just than the material cost. Ryan, how about you?
I'm about the same way. We made a lot of mistakes to begin with, and we're not perfect. We still make those mistakes. We finally just ended a project that should have been a lot more, and took us what was supposed to be like 2 weeks, and it took over a year and a half to complete the project.
Oh wow!
And that invoice and our net negative is posted on my wall in my office now, just to remind me every day. Because we took a project that we were supposed to make probably net 20,000 on, and we're negative net 70,000 on. So I mean, there's projects like that have bitten us, and we still do it here and there, but we live to learn, and we work through it. Obviously we try not to make that big of a mistake every day, but it happens here and there. There's still going to be unknowns,
right?
And I think that's the biggest thing that I stress to anybody is, don't panic when an unknown hits you. Just stop the project and talk to whoever you're working with and say, hey, this happened. How can we go about it? If you can present those facts, 9 times out of 10, those customers are going to work with you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just for those who are listening, every estimate that goes out the door has a mistake in it. Every single estimate, right? And the best you can do is learn from them. And I've got several projects I've done as well, where I've missed stuff in the estimate, and I've talked to the customer, and they've had me work this. It's funny. We work in the communications industry, but what do we suck at?
Communicating.
Jeff, okay, let's talk about your early mistakes for bidding and estimating. What were they, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've already shared too, between, not specking out the right products for the job, and then, maybe holding on to, connections a little longer than I should have. But I think for the most part, it's, I will also say it's not a matter of just learning from your mistakes. It's a matter of like Ryan and Pierce keep referencing, we have a community of people, and it is in TKW. And, the ones that I have the closest connections with are the ones that aren't afraid to admit to me when they have messed up. I find those relationships to be the most genuine. And I try to be that way as well, to share my mistakes and ask questions and not worry about being vulnerable. I'm at a point in my career where, if you think I'm stupid because of the type of questions I asked, I mean, I can't change that. I can't do anything about that, So I'm a perpetual learner. I'm never going to stop learning, and from people, and that's really what it comes down to. Is so. In addition to learning from many of my mistakes, I learn from everybody else's mistakes as well, and I find that to be really humbling to be able to do that to other people.
That's great advice. That's absolutely great advice. One of the benefits of working for large companies like I did was we had multiple offices across the United States, and once a year they would always bring in each of the offices for a yearly meeting, and during that yearly meeting, each office manager had to talk about one project that went really well and the project that went really bad.
Yeah.
And the goal ideal there was to have the other area managers learn from the mistakes. So if they came across the same situation, they were kind of already a step ahead. And that's one of the advantages of being a member of a group like TKW, because you've got other people who are similar sized similar sized businesses who have gone through that stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just TKW either. Like that engineering friend that I brought up again, just watching how he handled a bad relationship with an employee, and then, me being able to see how that went and put steps in place to make sure I didn't put myself in that position. So, yeah, I think if anybody takes anything from today, it's, definitely lean on people in the industry, but that should not be the only place where you gain knowledge on running a business.
Right.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's talk cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.